Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to lean in close and hear this. Your life changes the moment you put God first, not second, not when it's convenient, first. See, we live in a world that tells us success comes from hustle, grind, and self-reliance. But let me tell you a truth. True success starts in the spirit. When you align your life with the creator of the universe, when you put God first in your thoughts, in your business, in your relationship, everything starts to shift. Putting God first doesn't mean you stop working. It means you work with divine wisdom. It doesn't mean you stop dreaming. It means your dreams get upgraded to kingdom level purpose. You weren't put here to struggle. You were put here to dominate in your divine assignment. But if you want access to the full power of your assignment, you've got to tap into the source. When you put God first, doors open that no man can shut. When you put God first, favor follows you like a shadow. When you put God first, you stop chasing success and start attracting destiny. So the question is not whether God is able. The question is, are you willing to surrender the steering wheel and let him lead? Because once you do that, watch your life transform, watch peace return, watch provision flow, watch purpose come alive. Alignment before assignment means ordering your inner world so that your outer work carries heaven's signature instead of hurried scribbles powered by raw ambition. Picture a high-performance sports car. Without proper wheel alignment, the engine can roar and the driver can stomp the pedal, yet the vehicle will drift, wear out tires, and waste fuel. Many of us treat life exactly that way, pouring energy, intellect, capital, and emotion into an enterprise, silently veering off purpose. When you seek alignment first, you invite the master designer to correct the angle of your heart, straighten the motive behind your goals, and calibrate the timing of your next move. Suddenly, the same horsepower produces smooth momentum, and you travel farther on less effort because friction has been replaced by flow. Spiritual alignment begins privately in the unseen workshop of prayer, reflection, and obedience. There is nothing glamorous about waiting for instructions, but there is nothing more powerful. Soldiers who skip basic training may still be handed weapons, yet without alignment to their commander's voice, they turn into liabilities on the battlefield. Your gifts and opportunities operate the same way. They are dangerous when they outrun your instructions. Pause long enough for your marching orders. Ask, listen, and keep an uncluttered journal until your spirit senses a green light. Acting prematurely can cost years, while waiting faithfully can redeem them overnight. In practical terms, alignment shows up as clarity. You know exactly why a project matters, whom it is meant to serve, and what result counts as victory. Clarity breeds conviction, conviction breeds consistency, and consistency draws collaborators and capital that vagueness repels. Investors bet on leaders who radiate certainty. Clients follow voices that sound as if they have already visited the future. That certainty is not arrogance. It is borrowed confidence from the one who authored the assignment and revealed the blueprint before you lifted a hammer. Alignment also imparts authority. Athletes call it being in the zone, musicians say they're locked in, and entrepreneurs describe seasons when every proposal feels pre-approved. The zone is not luck. It is evidence that inner values, spoken words, and daily actions are synchronized with divine intention. Inside that atmosphere, ordinary phone calls turn into strategic partnerships. Simple content becomes viral impact, and setbacks pivot into testimonies that multiply influence. Finally, alignment releases acceleration. A train seated on correct tracks will always outrun a sports car bouncing across an open field. When your life rests on the track of God's design, acceleration is inevitable because the track itself carries you. That is why certain doors swing wide before you reach the handle, why favor greets you in rooms where you have no resume, and why revenue scales even while you sleep. The velocity is not conjured, it is conveyed through alignment. Therefore, before you draft the plan, hire the team, brand the logo, or book the venue, settle your posture before heaven, allow peace to click into place, and let every assignment unfold with guided, immediate certainty. Divine order unlocks divine favor because God's blessings are never random. They are released in response to structure, obedience, and spiritual law. The universe itself was formed through divine order, light before land, land before life, and life before leadership. Chaos has never been the language of heaven. Whenever God wants to bless a person, a people, or a place, he first sets things in order. That's why breakthroughs don't just show up where there's desperation. They arrive where there's alignment. You can cry out for blessing all you want, but if the order of your life contradicts the principles of the kingdom, you will delay what's already been appointed for you. Divine order is not about perfection, it's about priority. When God takes first place in your decisions, your time, your relationships, and your goals, everything else finds its rightful position beneath his rule. That's when favor flows, not forced, not manipulated, but freely. Favor is not a mystery to those who understand divine protocol. When you honor God's order, doors open that were previously sealed, opportunities chase you down, and what once required 10 steps now happens in 2. This is not magic, it's spiritual mathematics. Seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all these things will be added unto you, not earned, not begged for added. God will not bless a life that puts him on the margins. Many people want divine results while living according to human reasoning. They consult God last instead of first, make emotional decisions and ask him to bail them out, pursue relationships out of loneliness and ask him to make it holy. But favor follows order. The favor you're praying for is already written into the script of your obedience. When your life is out of order, you may still receive grace, but it will feel like survival. When your life is in order, you walk in overflow. Grace gets you through chaos, but favor multiplies peace. Divine order produces a foundation God can trust. Some blessings are delayed not because God is withholding them, but because he refuses to let those blessings rest on disorder. If he gave you the contract, the clients, or the platform before your soul was stabilized, the weight of the blessing could destroy you. So instead of blaming delay on the enemy, you may need to inspect the structure of your inner life. Is there consistency in your spiritual disciplines? Are your motives pure? Are you stewarding what you have with integrity and excellence? Because divine favor isn't about how much you want it. It's about how well you've prepared to carry it. Favor shows up where heaven sees a vessel that honors God's order. That's why some people seem to walk in ease. Not because their path is without obstacles, but because their steps are governed by obedience. They aren't fighting for favor, they're walking in it. Divine order doesn't just unlock favor, it maintains it. Once you understand that favor is not accidental but structural, you'll stop chasing random blessings and start building a life heaven can bless consistently. Spirit leads, strategy follows, because lasting success is not born from intellect alone, but from divine instruction. Many people attempt to reverse this order. They build complex strategies, flawless business plans, and calculated moves, and then ask God to bless what they've already decided. But when the Spirit leads, strategy becomes sharper, time is redeemed, and your efforts become amplified by supernatural insight. The Spirit of God is not anti-strategy. He is the author of the best ones. But he refuses to be reduced to a consultant. He must be the architect. Operating by Spirit first means you don't move based on pressure, competition, or trends. You move based on revelation. That's the difference between noise and clarity, between hustle and harvest. The Spirit sees what you don't. He knows what's coming next. While you're trying to build a future on projections, he's giving you instructions that will put you ahead of the curve. That's how God works. He prepares you privately before the world ever sees your fruit publicly. When the Spirit leads, you take steps that don't always make sense on paper, but they make miracles in real time. When you let the Spirit lead, your decisions start in the secret place. Prayer becomes your strategy room. Fasting becomes your planning session. Worship becomes your board meeting. You don't wait for analytics to give you the green light. You wait for peace. Strategy has its place, but peace is your compass. If you chase clarity without spiritual sensitivity, you might succeed in the wrong direction, and the worst kind of failure is to win at something that wasn't your assignment in the first place. The Spirit does not bypass wisdom, he enhances it. He won't cancel your need for planning, budgeting, or structuring, but he will breathe on those things once they've been birthed from obedience. There is a time to study the market, but there is also a time to shut the laptop and seek the Lord. Spirit-led people know when to stop calculating and start listening. They know when to pull back from the noise of metrics and enter the clarity of meditation. Some of the greatest moves you'll ever make will come without a roadmap, but they'll carry God's fingerprint. You'll find yourself in the right room at the right time with the right people saying the right words, and you'll know it wasn't because you mapped every variable, but because you followed the Spirit's nudge. That nudge may seem small, but it carries massive weight. Favor is not found in flawless planning, it's found in faithful following. When you start with strategy alone, you rely on human logic. But when you start with the Spirit, your logic becomes supercharged with heaven's wisdom. You're no longer making decisions just from the head. You're making moves from the heart of God. That's where multiplication happens. That's where stress turns to flow. Spirit leads, strategy follows. And when you get that order right, you'll stop trying to control every outcome and start trusting in divine orchestration. That's the rhythm where transformation lives. Faith is the foundation of wealth because true wealth begins in belief, not in bank accounts. Before money appears, before resources flow, before opportunities show up, there must be a deep, unshakable conviction that provision is not only possible, it's already promised. Wealth does not begin with cash. It begins with confidence in the source. You cannot walk in abundance if your heart is full of scarcity. You cannot expect overflow while your mind is locked in fear. Faith is what unlocks the realm where increase becomes normal, not exceptional. It is the invisible infrastructure that supports visible prosperity. Faith rewires how you see the world. Where others see limitation, the person of faith sees potential. Where others see lack, faith sees supply waiting to be claimed. That's why some people are always broke even with high income. They haven't dealt with the poverty in their mindset. Until your inner world is renewed by faith, you'll sabotage every blessing that enters your hands. Wealth sustained without faith quickly turns into worry, stress, or mismanagement. But wealth built on faith is marked by peace, purpose, and multiplication. Faith doesn't ignore strategy, it empowers it. It gives you the boldness to take risks others avoid. It gives you the courage to launch the business, write the vision, make the call, invest the seed, or leave the comfort zone. You're no longer paralyzed by what might go wrong because you're convinced of who goes before you. Faith moves you into action with the confidence that if God gave you the vision, He will also provide the resources. That's the kind of faith that produces results the world cannot explain. Wealth flows through people who are aligned with divine assignment, and faith is what keeps you aligned when circumstances don't cooperate. Faith keeps you building when the doors seem shut. Faith keeps you sowing when you haven't seen the harvest yet. Faith says, I may not see it now, but I know it's already done in the Spirit, and I will keep moving like it's already mine. That mindset draws in provision because heaven responds to faith, not desperation. God is not moved by need, He is moved by belief. Faith also teaches you that wealth is more than money. It's wholeness, wisdom, relationships, purpose, peace, and power. A person of faith refuses to limit wealth to just income. They understand that true wealth is having access to everything needed to fulfill God's call. Sometimes that comes in the form of finances. Other times it comes as favor, ideas, connections, or timing. But it always starts with faith. Faith expands your capacity to receive. It conditions your spirit to expect more, do more, and steward more. Until you develop wealth in your spirit, you'll never sustain wealth in your hands. The foundation must be built on faith. Faith that your source is unlimited, that your potential is God-given, and that your future is already secured. Faith lays the groundwork. Wealth is the result. Purpose flows from the presence of God because it is only in His presence that clarity is born. You can chase degrees, mentors, seminars, and strategies, but until you dwell in the presence of the one who created you, your purpose will always feel incomplete. Purpose is not manufactured by effort. It is revealed through intimacy. When you spend time in God's presence, you begin to see not just what you can do, but what you were created to do. You stop asking, "What's next?" and start asking, "Lord, what did you design me for?" That question changes everything. Many people are busy but disconnected. They're running hard in lanes they were never meant to occupy, working jobs, building businesses, or pursuing success out of fear or survival, not vision. But the presence of God filters out confusion. It silences the noise and removes the pressure to perform for approval. In His presence, you realize that you are already accepted, already chosen, and already equipped. The striving stops and the becoming begins. Purpose doesn't shout, it's whispered in moments of stillness, and the stillness of God's presence is the atmosphere where identity is affirmed and assignment becomes clear. In the presence of God, your heart gets reordered. You begin to care about what He cares about. You lose the desire to impress and gain the passion to impact. Purpose is not just about what brings you profit. It's about what brings God glory. And the closer you walk with Him, the more your purpose becomes purified. What started as ambition gets transformed into assignment. What began as a dream for fame shifts into a burden for change. His presence refines your why. You also find endurance in His presence. Purpose is never just a moment, it's a journey. And there will be seasons when the path gets hard, when doors close, when results delay. If your purpose is rooted in personal gain, you'll quit when it stops paying off. But if your purpose flows from God's presence, you keep going even when it costs, because you know you're walking in obedience, not convenience. That obedience is what opens the favor of God, draws the right people, and attracts supernatural outcomes. The presence of God is also where boldness is born. When you've heard from God in the secret place, you can step out with confidence in the public place. You don't need constant validation, because you're anchored in revelation. That's how purpose moves with power. It's not guesswork, it's guidance. You move forward not because you figured everything out, but because you know who's going with you. Everything of lasting impact begins with presence. When you prioritize the presence of God, you align your life with heaven's agenda. You stop imitating others and start walking in what's uniquely yours. That's how you find true fulfillment, not by hustling for purpose, but by sitting with the one who wrote your purpose before time began. In His presence, the fog lifts. In His presence, the questions get answers. In His presence, purpose flows like a river, clear, powerful, and unstoppable. Surrender brings supernatural acceleration because the minute you release the illusion of control, you invite the unlimited power of God to do in moments what you could not achieve in decades. Most people assume surrender is passive, a white flag that ends the fight. In truth, surrender is aggressive faith. It is the intentional act of handing your steering wheel to the one who designed the road. When you unclench your fist, God multiplies what falls into His hands. Your talents, resources, and timelines become seeds in divine soil, and seeds in divine soil grow at a pace that defies natural logic. Abraham surrendered the security of Ur and stepped into a covenant that birthed nations. Moses surrendered the palace and became the liberator of Israel. Every great leap in scripture and history is preceded by someone letting go of their own plan so heaven could implement a better one. Surrender accelerates because it removes friction. Self-will drags like an anchor against the wind of the Spirit. Surrender cuts the rope. Suddenly the same efforts glide instead of grind. Emails are answered favorably, mentors appear unexpectedly, delays reverse themselves overnight. What looked impossible on Friday is a settled matter by Monday, not because you hustled harder, but because you yielded deeper. That is why surrendered people walk in a calm confidence. They know the burden of proof rests on God, not on them. Their job is obedience, His job is outcome. When you truly believe that, anxiety dissolves and capacity expands. Fear shrinks vision, but surrender enlarges it until you begin dreaming at the scale of God's imagination. Surrender also recalibrates your timing. We often confuse busy seasons with productive ones, filling calendars yet moving inches. Divine acceleration compresses the timeline. Ideas mature faster, relationships deepen sooner, promotions leapfrog processes. Jesus turned water to wine in seconds because servants surrendered the ridiculous instruction to fill jars with water. The centurion's servant was healed at a distance because the officer surrendered conventional protocol and trusted a word. Speed in the kingdom is measured by obedience, not by effort. Each "Yes, Lord" is a catalytic moment that bends time in your favor. Surrender amplifies favor because it signals trust. Trust is the currency of heaven. The more you entrust to God, the more he entrusts to you. It is impossible for God to resist a surrendered heart. He searches the earth looking for it, and when he finds it, he pours out strategies, resources, and connections that money cannot buy. Contracts materialize, partnerships align, and ideas appear that disrupt industries. What takes competitors years of a/B testing drops into your spirit as a fully formed blueprint during a 30-minute prayer walk. People call it luck, you call it lordship. Finally, surrender sustains acceleration by keeping pride in check. Breakthrough without humility breeds collapse, but surrender roots success in gratitude. You never forget who opened the doors, so you steward them well. Momentum remains supernatural rather than self-manufactured, and what begins fast keeps building. You live in a perpetual rhythm of release and receive, letting go of the lesser, gaining the greater, moving ever forward at the speed of surrender.